We're going to work on making this piece, which goes in front of these front seats. It actually goes on both sides, but we're just going to focus on one side and we can mirror it after. So it also has these cup holders and it's got this little rail at the top, so we'll make that as well as the rest of these details. So we're going to go back to our Blender file and we're going to select this vertex. We're going to do Shift D to duplicate, right click to cancel, grab it on the Z axis, hold Control, snap it there. E to extrude, right click to cancel, grab it on the X axis, hold Control and snap it there. Then we can Alt right click, E to extrude, right click to cancel and bring this up. Then we're going to do E to extrude, right click to cancel, bring this up again. If you want to, you can do Control 1 for front view and just bring this up until it's a bit lower than the top of the seats here. Next we're going to do K for the knife cut tool and we're going to want to try to make an angle to this. So we're just going to left click somewhere around here and make an angle sort of like this. And then just left click again and press enter. Then you can select this vertex here in the corner and press delete and choose vertices. The next thing we're going to do is Control R, then left click and place a vertex right here. So you should have a vertex right in the center of those two vertices there. Then we're going to do K for the knife cut tool, left click on that newly created vertex, press C to make a straight line, go all the way over to the other side, and then left click and press enter so we have a nice straight line across here. This top part will be used for that top railing and the rest of this will be the other piece. Then we're going to do Control R again, we're going to left click here, and you can right click to select that vertex. And we just want to create a little bit of curvature here, so we're just going to press G and move this out a bit as best you can on this diagonal to create a bit of curvature here. And at this point we don't need to see anything else, like we don't need to see the seats or anything else. So if we press tab to go to object mode and then do Shift H, that'll hide everything except for what we're working on. And we can press tab again to go back into edit mode, and we're going to switch to face select. We're going to select this face, do I to do an inset, and do an inset about this big. Then we're going to do K for the knife cut tool. We're going to left click on this vertex, C to make a straight line, go all the way down, left click again and press enter. And you're going to do the same on this side, do K for the knife cut tool, left click, C, left click again, press enter. Switch to vertex select, select this vertex, shift select on this one, Alt M at last. Select this one, shift select this one, and this time you can do Shift R to repeat, and that will repeat merging at last. Now we're going to select all these and we're going to bring them down on the Z axis, so just bring them down a little bit on the Z axis so there's more space here than there is on the sides. Then we're going to take these and we're just going to bring them down some more as well. And I'm going to take this one, I'm going to bring it over to create more curvature here, and bring this one down, and then reposition this one to be more in the center of those two and still have more outward curvature as well. And if you want to have a bit more curvature, just keep positioning these a bit further away until you have more distance between these. Now we're going to switch to face select. We're going to select this face. We're going to do I to do an inset. And then we're going to go over here. We're just going to bring it in this direction, so towards where this step is. Just bring it out about that far or so. We're going to switch to vertex select and select these three. You can do one for front view and then just scale these down, so do S to scale them down until there's less distance between them, and then maybe just bring them down a little bit. And we're going to bring this one over quite a lot to give this a nice angle to right here, maybe down slightly. And we're going to take these two, we're going to bring them down quite a bit, then do S and X to bring them closer to the other points over here, and then possibly readjust these so that there's a better shape over here. Then we'll switch to face select and we're going to select these two faces. We're going to do I to do an inset, and we want to inset about that much right there. So you want to look at the distance up here because we're going to get rid of everything down here. And then we're going to do K for the knife cut tool. We're going to left click here, And you want to kind of just angle this so that the distance from here to here will be the same as what it will be over here when we do this knife cut. So probably like that's going to be fine. Then just left click and press enter. Then we're going to switch to vertex select. We're going to select these two and do Alt M and choose at last. We're going to go over here, and just to make it easier to see this, I'm going to do A twice and Control N to recalculate the normals. Then we're going to select this one and shift select this one, do Alt M and choose at last. Then do the same over here, select this one, then this one, and you can do Shift R at this point to repeat that. Then for this one, what we're going to have to do is 1 for front view, and we're going to do K for the knife cut tool, left click on this vertex, C for a straight line, then left click down here and press enter. Then you're going to select this one, shift select this one, Alt M and choose at last. If you want to, you can hold Control and select this one, then just do Q to slide this over slightly, because it actually, if you were watching this vertex, it kind of moved over to the left a little bit, so the bottom was a little bit fatter than the rest of it, so I'm just trying to compensate for that. Now we're going to switch to face select, and we're going to select these two faces again. We're going to do I to do an inset, this time do a fairly small inset. And then we're going to do Control R, we're going to left click right click in the center of that. Then we're going to switch to face select again, select these two faces, and we're going to do Alt S for shrink fatten, and just bring it in a little bit so that it looks kind of like this. The other thing I forgot to do, we're going to switch to vertex select, and we want to select all these on this corner here, so you can just select one, C for circle select, get the rest. Do the same over here, get these three here, and actually this one on the corner too. And this kind of has an angle to it backwards, so we want to bring this back like this. And then, make sure that it has that angle just like that. So that's closer to what we want it to be. And if you want to, you can go to face select, select these two, and then just do I to do another inset just to make sure this will look fine once we're finished. The next thing to do is add in those little cup holders here. So we're just going to left click to put the cursor in this area. We're going to tab into edit mode, go to create and choose circle. We're going to change the vertex count to 8 and press enter. S to scale this down. You can switch to vertex select. And we're going to do 7 for top view. S to scale this down quite a bit. And we're going to position this a bit higher up, so just bring it higher up so it's above this surface right here. So that's the surface we're going to be using. Then do 7 for top view. You're going to scale this out till it fits this area quite nicely. Then you're going to want to position it somewhere on the x-axis, wherever you think is a good spot. Then we can do Control R and left click, right click. I'm going to select this vertex, do Shift S and cursor to selected. Then we're going to Alt right click here, change this to 3D cursor, Shift D to duplicate, right click to cancel, S, X, and then -1 and press enter. Then we can Alt right click, do delete and dissolve edges. Then we're going to Alt right click, Alt and Shift right click. We're going to press P to separate this and choose selection, switch to tools, and we're going to do knife project. Then we're going to do E to extrude, right click to cancel. We're going to change our view a bit and we're going to bring this up some. We're going to change this from the 3D cursor to median point. We're going to do S, Z, and then 0 and press enter. Grab it on the Z axis, hold Control, snap it to there. We're going to do E to extrude, right click to cancel, switch this to individual origins. Then we're going to do S to scale this down slightly. E to extrude, right click to cancel, bring it up slightly. E to extrude, right click to cancel, and S to scale it down. Then finally, E to extrude, right click to cancel, and just bring this down pretty far. That's going to be fine right there. Then I'm going to tab into edit mode, or object mode actually. Select this piece, do delete, and just confirm that by left clicking. Select this piece again, tab into edit mode, and we're going to do Control plus a bunch of times until we have this whole thing selected like this. Then you're going to do P to separate and choose selection. Then we can tab into object mode, and we can hide this for now. Just select this piece, do H to hide it. Then select this piece again, tab into edit mode, switch to face select, select these two faces, delete and choose faces. Switch to vertex select, alt right click, and then do F to make a face to fill this back in again. The main reason we separated those little cup holders is because we're going to use a different value when we add in the bevel modifier to this. We want to use a different value for the cup holders, so that's why we did that. Now we're going to work on this top piece, so we're going to go to face select and select this face. We're going to do Y to separate this into a separate piece. We're going to go to edge select and select this edge and just bring it out slightly because it actually sticks out just a little bit on this side from what I can tell. We're going to do one for front view. We're going to do Control R, left click and bring this over. You're going to want to press E and make sure the red dot's on this side, so if it's over here, press F and it'll be on this side. Then you're going to bring it to about here because this doesn't go all the way over, it stops about here or so. Then select this edge and then press delete and choose vertices. Then we're going to select one of these edges, do Control L and then Shift H so that we're only working with this piece. We're going to do K for the knife cut tool. You're going to want to left click about here and drag it over like this until it's roughly parallel to this angle right here, and then left click again and press enter. If we wanted to make sure it was perfectly parallel, we can just do Control Z and undo that, and we can just select this edge and we'll use this edge to make another edge right here. But before we do that, I'm actually just going to make a loop cut right in the center. So we're going to do Control R, left click, right click, S, X, and then 0 to make it straight on the X axis, and press enter. That's going to be for later when we make our diagonal cuts. And then we're going to select this edge, and to make another parallel one, we're just going to do Shift D to duplicate, right click to cancel, and you're just going to bring this over on the X axis until you're happy. So now this will be perfectly parallel with this one. And then we're going to do Shift D to duplicate, right click to cancel because we need another one roughly over here. And we want to set our cursor to the center point, so we're going to select this edge, Shift S, cursor to selected, select this piece, change this to 3D cursor, Shift D to duplicate, right click to cancel, S, X, -1, and press enter. So now we have our nice two diagonal cuts. Then on this side we need another diagonal one, so we're going to do Shift D to duplicate, right click to cancel, and bring this over until about there. And I actually realized these are going in the wrong direction. They're supposed to go like this, so we're going to select these two, so select one, shift select the other. Then do S, Z, and -1 and press enter, so now we have them going in the correct direction like that. Then to actually use these to make cuts, we're going to select all four of these. So we're going to select all four of these that are supposed to be used to make a cut. We're going to do P to separate and choose selection. You want to make sure you're still in front view, so press 1 on the number pad if you're not. And then you're just going to click on knife project, and you're going to get these nice lines cut into this object. And you're going to do tab to go to object mode, and you can move your view around a little bit and you'll probably see these lines. Just try to select those lines, which are the lines we use for those cuts. Then do delete and press OK. Then select this object again, 1 for front view, tab into edit mode. And the last piece is we just need a straight line across this part. So we're going to do Control R, left click, and bring this up. And then left click when you're happy. Then you're going to switch to face select and select these two faces, do delete and choose faces. Then we're going to select all these faces. We're going to do I to do an inset and just make a small inset. And then we're going to bring it out in this direction, so bring it out slightly. Then we can do Control L. We can do Shift D to duplicate, right click to cancel, switch this to median point, do S, Y, and then -1 and press enter to flip it on the Y axis. And bring it out in this direction a bit, and just give it a little bit of space so that there's a little bit of space here between these two objects. Then we can switch to vertex select, and we're going to alt right click, alt and shift right click, so you should have these two edge loops right there. And you can do shift and Q to bridge edge loops, or you can go to mesh, edges, and bridge edge loops. Then we can just select these two and press F a bunch of times. You'll see it continuously filling in all these areas here until finally it's going to get to the back side, and it's just going to fill all this stuff in with faces. So you should have faces all along this area here, and this object's pretty much done. So then we're going to do A to select everything and Control N to recalculate the normals. Then we're going to do Alt H to bring everything else back. One last touch on these pieces is these bottoms are actually supposed to be a bit wider than the rest of it. But another thing I wanted to do is make mine a little thicker in this area. So what I'm going to do to make it a little thicker is I'm just going to do Control R, left click, right click, H to hide this, then select this side, do Control L, and then just bring it out a bit further to create more thickness in this area. Then do Alt H, Alt right click, and delete and dissolve edges. Then we want these bottom pieces to be thicker, so you're going to select all 4 of the bottom vertices there. And if you want to make it easier, just do Control L and Shift H again, and then you can select the bottom 4 vertices a lot easier. And then do the same over here. And you're going to do S and then Y and just scale it out on the Y axis to make it thicker on the Y axis. Then you're going to do the same with these middle ones, so select the 4 in the middle and select the 4 over here in the middle. Then do S and Y and try to make it a relatively straight line from here to here. So just do S and Y until it's relatively straight. Then we can do Alt H to unhide everything. We're going to select the vertex on this piece and do Control L. Then we're going to do Shift D to duplicate, right click to cancel and bring this out some. Then we're going to do bridge edge loops again, so we're going to Alt right click here, Alt and Shift right click here, and we want to make sure we get the whole thing, so down here at the bottom. We also want to do C for circle select and make sure we get these bottom ones as well. Then you can do Shift and Q and that should bridge all of the faces together. Or you can just go to Mesh Edges and Bridge Edge Loops again, which is right here. The last step is to do Control R, left click, right click. Then we're going to do Control B and do a bevel. And you're going to mouse wheel up 3 times until you have 5 cuts, so you should see 5 edge loops. And then you're going to make a bevel similar to this and then just left click. Then we're going to do Control minus to decrease the selection and then do it again. Then we're going to do Alt S to shrink, fatten, and just bring this in so that it's creating this separation effect. Now we can go to object mode by pressing tab and go to tools and turn on smooth shading. So we're going to add in a modifier to make this look a little nicer. We're going to add in the bevel modifier, change it to angle, and change the segment count to 2. Then we can tab into edit mode, and we want to make sure these 2 lines have a crease on them, so we're going to switch to edge select, and you can select these 2 edges right here. We're going to press N to open up this panel and just go up some. Then under mesh display you should see edge info, and you're going to turn on the angle, so just left click on this checkbox and you can take a look at the angle. So you have 23 right there, and this one looks like it's 20. So you can change this down to or actually that one's 28 it looks like. So you just want to have this value be a little lower than these. So that's 23, so you can actually do 23 and that should be fine. But then if you select this edge, you notice it's going to get creased as well because it's at 24, so we have a crease on all 3 of these. So you just have to reduce the angle on this. So you just go to vertex select and select one of these vertices, and you can just drag it and you can watch the angle of this edge changing, and you just want it to be lower than 22 or 23, whatever it is. Whatever you set this to, you want that angle right here to be lower than that, and it'll get flat shading instead of, or it'll get smooth shading instead of being creased in that area. And you can also change this one too if you want a little bit, since you changed this one, and then you should be all set. So now we have those 2 creases there and everything's looking alright. The only thing is I got this line here. To get rid of that, You're just going to select this vertex, shift select this one, and J to join to make that into a quad. And then this will be a quad as well. And that kind of helps to get rid of that line a bit. Then the last thing you might want to do is to separate this piece as well and also center it. So we just can tab into edit mode, select the vertex here, do Control L. I'm going to turn this off, this angle thing. And we want to center this, so we're going to switch it to individual origins. And we're going to want to try to snap to one of these center vertices that's part of this inset part. So we're going to do G and then Y to move it on the Y axis. Hold Control and snap it to one of these vertices. And that should center it perfectly along with this. So we can switch this back to the median point. So we're going to tab into object mode and we're going to do Alt H to unhide everything. Z for wireframe. We're going to select this piece and we're going to hold shift and try to select this little cup holder. Then do Shift H to hide everything else. And Z to get out of wireframe. Then we're going to select this little cup holder. Add modifier, choose bevel. Change it to angle. And we also want to go to Tools and turn on Smooth Shading. So make sure you're in Object Mode. Go to Tools, turn on Smooth Shading. And then you're going to want to adjust this value to a higher value until these sides are not creased, but you want, or not beveled I mean, but you want all these edges to be beveled so you can just make it whatever value works for you. So 50 looks like it's fairly decent, so that should be alright for those little cup holders. Then we want to right click to select this object, tab into edit mode. We're going to do A twice to select everything. And on mine the normals are messed up, so I'm going to do Control L to recalculate the normals and fix that. The other problem you'll see is you might have these sticking through. So we're just going to right click to select this, and we're going to tab into edit mode. We're going to Alt right click, Alt and Shift right click. And we're going to bring this up slightly. Then I'm going to deselect some of the vertices that are already hidden so we don't have to worry about those. So I only have the ones that are kind of sticking through now. I can deselect that one too as well. So I'm just doing Z for wireframe, C for circle select, middle mouse deselect to deselect these. So these are still a problem, so we're just going to bring them up some until they're hidden. Those look like they're fine, so I'm going to deselect all these, all the ones that are alright, and then just bring the rest of these up some. And that should look a bit better, so it looks like, yeah, everything's looking pretty good. So once you're happy with it, you're just going to save it by going to File and Save. Thank you to our awesome Patreon supporters. If you'd like to become a Patreon supporter yourself, head on over to patreon.com/StephenBrooks. Thank you for your support.